Genesis gives you the flood in 5 paragraphs. The corruption was great. God was grieved. Noah found favor. The waters came. 40 days and 40 nights. And then a rainbow, a covenant, and the story moves on. The Book of Enoch gives you the flood in 3 chapters. And the version in Enoch is not a simpler story with more detail. It is a completely different story. A story with a specific cause, not vague human wickedness, but a named catastrophe that Enoch watched unfold before he was taken. A story with a specific warning chain, not a single divine command to build a boat, but a transmission of knowledge through Enoch to Methuselah to Noah that stretches across multiple generations. A story with a specific aftermath, not a clean reset, but a world in which the problem that caused the flood is still partially present, now under new management. And it is a story with a specific man at the center, not just a righteous boat builder, but the hinge point of all of history. The last person to receive direct transmission from the pre-flood world. The first person to receive the terms of the post-flood settlement. A man who stood at the dividing line between 2 completely different ages. If you watched the last episode on Mastema, the negotiation that happened with Noah right after the flood, you already know part of this story. Today we go back to the beginning of Noah's role in the ancient texts, because before the negotiation, there was the warning. Before the warning, there was a birth, and that birth, according to 1 Enoch, terrified his own father. In 1 Enoch chapters 106 and 107, the section scholars call the Noah Appendix, the birth of Noah is described, and it is not the story you know. When Noah was born, Lamech, his father, was terrified, because the child was wrong. The text says he was born with a body as white as snow and red as a rose blossom. His hair was white as wool. His eyes were like the rays of the sun, and when he opened them, they lit up the entire house. He stood up immediately, an infant standing, and opened his mouth and blessed the Lord of heaven. Lamech looked at his son and thought, "This is not mine. This is a watcher's child." Because the watchers had been taking human women and producing Nephilim for generations. Lamech had grown up in a world where the sons of God and the daughters of men had already blurred the line between human and angelic, and his newborn child looked like something that had come from the other side of that line. He went to his father Methuselah. He told him everything, and Methuselah made a journey. He walked to the ends of the earth, that is the language of the text, to where Enoch had been dwelling since his translation. And he told Enoch what Lamech had seen. Enoch sent a message back. "The child is Lamech's. He is not the son of the watchers or from the fallen ones. He is righteous. But something is coming, and this child will be the only man righteous enough to survive it. A great destruction is on its way, and Lamech should name his son Noah, from a root meaning rest, because he will be a comfort to the earth after what is coming." Enoch predicted the flood, not in a vague prophetic sense, but in precise documented detail before he was taken. In the Book of Enoch, Enoch does not simply receive visions of heaven and cosmic secrets. He is also given a complete account of what is going to happen to the earth. He sees the Watcher's descent. He watches the Nephilim consume the world. He sees the prayers of the dying rising to heaven, a specific image that appears multiple times in 1 Enoch, the blood of the dead, crying out from the earth like a voice. And he sees what God's response will be. Before Enoch is taken, he gives all of this to Methuselah. He instructs Methuselah to preserve the writings and pass them to the righteous who come after him. The Book of Enoch itself, the ancient text, frames itself as a transmission. Chapter 1 opens, "The words of the blessing of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and the righteous who would be present on the day of tribulation." It was not written for the generation that was alive when Enoch lived. It was written for a generation far in the future. But embedded in the transmission is the immediate practical warning. Something is coming for your world, and there is one man righteous enough to survive it. Methuselah passed it to his son Lamech. Lamech presumably passed the knowledge, if not the full text, to Noah. This is the chain. Enoch to Methuselah to Lamech to Noah. The pre-flood knowledge had a delivery system, and Noah arrived at the flood not as a man who received one command to build a boat, but as a man who had inherited the full account of why it was coming. Genesis says, "The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." That is the description, not the cause. The Book of Enoch gives the cause. In 1 Enoch 7 and 8, the watchers, the sons of God, descended to Mount Hermon, 200 of them. They took human women as wives and produced the Nephilim. And the Nephilim consumed everything. The text is precise. They ate all the possessions of men. When there was nothing left, they turned to the men themselves, then to the animals, then to the birds, the fish, the reptiles. They consumed the world. And along the way, they taught humanity how to make swords, how to make shields, how to make breastplates for war, the roots and drugs that cause sin, enchantments, the cutting of roots, astrology, the artificial beautification that teaches women to seduce. The knowledge of the watchers poured into the world, and the world became unrecognizable. In 1 Enoch 9, the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, look down from heaven and see what has happened. They hear the petition of the dying, human souls crying out from under the earth, asking, "Bring our cause before the Most High." And the archangels do exactly that. They go before God and they describe what the watchers have done. They name Azazel specifically. They name Semjaza. They lay out the case. And God responds with the flood. Not because human hearts wandered into wickedness on their own, but because an external angelic agenda corrupted the world to a point that made the flood the only available response. The flood killed the Nephilim. Their bodies were destroyed by the waters. Their flesh dissolved in the deep. Every Nephilim that walked the earth before the flood was gone, but not their spirits. This is the piece that Genesis does not address, and that the Book of Jubilees explains in detail. The Nephilim were neither fully human nor fully angelic. They had two natures, the body of a human woman and the spirit of a watcher. And when their bodies were destroyed, their spirits were released. They had no body to return to. They had no angelic homeland to go back to. The watchers who fathered them were imprisoned under mountains of stone, and the Nephilim spirits were simply loose. Jubilees 10 describes what happened next. Noah's grandchildren begin to be afflicted. The evil spirits, that in the disembodied Nephilim, attack them. They lead them astray. They blind their eyes. They drive them toward destruction. Noah sees what is happening to his family, to his grandchildren, to the new post-flood generation, and he prays to God, "Bind them all. Let none of them remain. Remove every evil spirit from the earth." God agrees. He commands the angels to bind every evil spirit. And that is the moment Noah prays and God agrees, that Mastema steps forward and negotiates. This is the bridge between the two episodes. The flood did not solve the problem of evil spirits on earth. It solved the problem of evil embodied in Nephilim flesh, but the spirits, homeless, bodiless, ancient, hungry, survived the waters entirely. And after the flood, they had a new target, the only family left on earth. After Mastema's negotiation, after God agreed to leave 10% of the evil spirits active under Mastema's command, something happens in Jubilees that most readers have completely missed. God turns to the angels and gives a second command. He tells them to teach Noah. Jubilees 10 says, "All of the healing of their diseases together with their seductions we told Noah, so that he might heal by means of the herbs of the earth. And God opened to Noah all the healing remedies of the plants, every herb, every root, every plant with medicinal properties. The angels of God taught Noah how to use them. For what ailments, in what combinations, in what doses. Why at this exact moment? Because Mastema just won the right to retain 10% of the evil spirits on earth. Evil spirits that, according to the text, attack humanity through sickness and disease. The Nephilim spirits afflict people in the body, and God's response to the retained 10% was to give Noah a complete pharmacopoeia, a medical library, so that every ailment the evil spirits bring could be met with a remedy. Noah wrote it all down. The Book of Healing, his own text, preserved the medicine he received, and this explains something that becomes important later in Jubilees, why Noah was considered so significant beyond just surviving the flood. He was not only the man who preserved human life through the waters, he was the first physician of the post-flood world, the keeper of healing knowledge given directly by angels as a defense against the adversarial forces Mastema commanded. Evil was permitted, and medicine was given as the answer. The two came at the same time, from the same divine decision. Noah is the hinge of the ages. In the ancient framework these texts describe, human history has two fundamental eras divided by the flood. The pre-flood era, the Age of the Watchers, was a time of direct, physical, angelic intervention on earth. The sons of God walked among humans visibly. The Nephilim were tangible, embodied, massive. The knowledge they brought was direct transmission. Angels teaching women how to apply cosmetics. Angels teaching men how to forge weapons. Angels teaching astrology and divination in face-to-face instruction. The corruption was direct because the interference was direct. The flood ends that era. The surviving watchers are imprisoned under mountains. Their Nephilim children are dead. And the post-flood era, which is the era we still live in, has a completely different adversarial structure. No more watchers in the physical world. Instead, disembodied Nephilim spirits operating under Mastema's command with a negotiated, bounded, time-limited authority. More subtle, less visible, but still very much present. Noah stands on the dividing line. He is the last man with direct contact to the pre-flood world. The knowledge chain goes Enoch, who received it from heaven, to Methuselah, to Lamech, to Noah. Everything Enoch documented about the cosmic order, the watchers, the structure of heaven, the calendar, the movements of the stars, all of it was intended to survive the flood through Noah's family. And on the other side of the line, Noah is the first man of the post-flood world to receive the new terms, the 90-10 split, the healing texts, the formal division of the earth among his sons. Everything that defines the age we live in begins with Noah at the waterline. After the flood, in the Book of Jubilees, God formally divides the earth among Noah's 3 sons. Shem receives the center. From the Euphrates eastward, through the lands of Persia and the Indus, and westward through the land of Canaan, the heartland. The Holy Land is explicitly within Shem's portion. This is not coincidental in the Jubilees framework. It is the first assignment of the Promised Land, generations before Abraham. Ham receives Africa, Egypt, the lands of the south, Canaan's adjacent territories. Japheth receives the north and the western reaches, the coastlands, the far islands, the far north. Angels of the nations are assigned. In the ancient Israelite worldview, as reflected in Deuteronomy 32 and the Dead Sea Scrolls, each nation has an angelic authority over it. Some of these authorities are among the Watcher's descendants, or spirits now aligned with Mastema's network. The division of the earth is also a division of spiritual responsibility, and the nations that lose connection to the God of Noah, that drift into the practices Mastema's spirits promote, fall under the authority of those lesser spiritual powers. The Book of Jubilees makes this explicit. It is the evil spirits who lead the nations away from the knowledge of God and toward idol worship, not human invention, not philosophical error. Mastema's retained 10%, working nation by nation, generation by generation, promoting the worship of the spirits themselves, the Nephilim dead, in the form of idols and local deities. Idolatry is not what it appears to be in the Enoch framework. It is not primitive misunderstanding. It is organized spiritual misdirection, the evil spirits directing human worship toward themselves, facilitated by Mastema across the divided nations of the post-flood world. Jesus makes a reference that most readers treat as a comparison about moral conditions. In Matthew 24 and Luke 17 he says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." People were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing until the flood came and took them all away. Read that in the context of Genesis alone, and it sounds like a warning about complacency. People were too comfortable to notice the coming judgment. Read that in the context of 1 Enoch, a text that Jude quotes directly, a text that was found at Qumran, among the most carefully preserved scrolls, a text that Second Temple Jewish communities treated with the same authority as Genesis. And the reference carries much more specific content. Because in Enoch's telling, what was happening in the days of Noah was not merely that people were distracted. The sons of God were marrying the daughters of men. Angelic and human natures were being combined. The Watchers were in the physical world, openly present, producing offspring. The world was being reshaped by an interference that was never supposed to happen. The Epistle of Jude in the New Testament quotes Enoch directly. He says Enoch prophesied about the false teachers of the last days. He describes the imprisoned Watchers using the exact language of 1 Enoch. The New Testament writers knew the Book of Enoch. They expected their audience to know it. When Jesus says, "as in the days of Noah," he is not only comparing moral conditions, he is invoking the entire Enoch framework. The same categories, the same dynamics, the same adversarial structure, the same approaching end. Here is the full picture of what the ancient texts do with Noah. In Genesis, Noah is a righteous man in a wicked age. He builds a boat. The waters come. His family survives. The world starts over. The end. In the Enoch framework, Noah is something far more layered. He is a man born with visible evidence of a different order, a birth so unusual It caused his father to fear angelic interference. He is the recipient of a pre-flood transmission, the writings of Enoch, passed through Methuselah and Lamech, containing the full account of the watchers, the Nephilim, the cosmic structure of heaven, the calendar, the coming judgment. He enters the flood already knowing why it is happening and what it represents. He survives, and on the other side, he becomes the first negotiating partner of the post-flood era. Not that God consulted Noah before accepting Mastema's terms, but that the entire post-flood settlement was established in Noah's presence and for Noah's family. The healing texts were given to him. The division of the earth was made to him and his sons. The terms of Mastema's retained authority were established in the same moment that Noah prayed for deliverance from the evil spirits. Everything that comes after the flood, Abraham, the covenant, the law of Moses, the division of the nations, the long arc of human history toward judgment, all of it operates within the framework that was established with Noah at the waterline. He did not just survive. He received the terms of the age we still live in. The flood is not the end of the problem. It is the beginning of the current arrangement. And we are still in it. If this changed how you read Noah in the Bible, subscribe to Enoch Unveiled and turn on notifications. Every week we go deeper into the ancient texts your church never covered. The Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the hidden frameworks behind the stories you thought you already knew. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.